So, couple of tips and tricks. Came up with a good way of drawing a cube, which goes like this. So if you start the cube there, which I never do, but if you start the cube there, and that's always a place I make a mistake. And now, if you think the front line, this front line has to be longer than that one, and this front line has to be longer than that one. And this has to be longer than that. The angle of this, it has to angle inward. It has to. Hey, baby. And this has to be longer than that. So it turns out a pretty decent cube. What are you thinking about this guy? It's over there. Okay. Another thing, this idea of pulling a line. So if you take a line and you start it, and then you see where I'm going back at this line, and then I'm going to go. And it's as though I'm drawing a single, long, beautiful line when I'm totally incapable of doing that. So I'm starting to really practice doing that. It came off of a Proco video. And it feels good too. It feels like a really nice way to draw. It like gives a sort of, there's a sort of elegant feeling to it. Seems like it makes sense. Okay. So today we're gonna approach the pelvis, and when you have a figure, like let's say we just start out with a figure. Okay, so this is a pretty good starting place, right? Like if we can get to here, one of the things that we can do from here is we can address like our shape language, right? Like you could be like, okay, so here's the, if I wanted to go like a roundy, or really boxy. Okay, so these figures bring a lot. This kind of figure brings a lot to our drawing. Okay, the next thing that we want to start to add to this is we want perspective. Okay, the reason that we study anatomy is so that we can get perspective on our figures. All right, there's like we don't study anatomy like for any other reason. Okay. What we're looking for is we're looking for a way to take this figure and I want to start to invent a perspective. Okay, I want to start to be like, okay, wait, okay, I'm looking down on this figure. And I'm looking at this figure a little bit from the right. Because I'm looking at this figure from the right, I'm seeing more of the right side of more of that side of his body. Okay, so it's really like the entire hope of today's lesson is that you go from here to here. Okay, so what ends up happening is we like in this lesson, we end up traversing like these spaces. Okay, and I think that I was saying at the end of the last class, I was talking to a student, and I was like, it's like anatomy is like the difference between like thinking thoughts and saying thoughts, where like there's some things you think and you don't say. Anatomy is a little bit like that. Like you don't like this figure looks like a figure that you took the skin off of, right? So you don't draw a figure that you take the skin and the fat and that you don't. That's not the figure that you really want to draw unless you get hired on like Walking Dead or something like that. And then it's only for just little parts of it. The figure that you want to draw is more like that. Like the figure that you want to draw it's more like that, like this part of that figure, right? Like you're looking for a way to, but what the anatomy gives you is it gives you orientation, and it gives you a way to start to create the illusion of three-dimensional space with these characters. Okay, so I want to introduce a couple of I want to introduce a two-part measuring system. Okay, so I want to, for measuring in the round, I want to work with a kind of a clock. Okay, so we'll say that there's like a 12 o'clock, and across the circumference would be 6 o'clock, And then directly perpendicular, we would have a 9 o'clock, or I'm sorry, a 3 o'clock and a 9 o'clock, okay? So that gives us a way of traversing the figure in three-dimensional space. Like I could say, I could take that and think of it as right here. Okay, and I could say, this is my 6 o'clock right here. This is my 12 o'clock right here, directly across this line. I know that on that line, right here, I'm drawing the inside of the seventh cervical vertebrae. I just know that it comes up there, okay? I could say that at my shoulders, coming at what I'm looking for is perpendicular to here. This is my 3 o'clock, and this is my 9 o'clock. Okay, that's that line on the scapula. The scapula goes like this, right? At the top. And so this is this, okay? And it comes up over here and it comes up over there. And it allows me to do this thing. It allows me to go like this, right? And that creates a sense of depth, okay? If I go for the clavicle here, I can go back and hit that. And over here, if I go back and hit that, that just allowed me this, right? So my anatomy is working for me in that specific way. So along with this would be the 4-5, right? This would be the 7-8. This is the 10-11, and this is the 1-2. And so we'll just move around the form talking about it like that. Like, so for instance, the scapula kind of ends at about like someplace between, maybe we might say at the 11 and at the 1, right? Like here's an 11, right? And here's the scapula and it comes over that way. And over here is probably the 1. And that goes like that, okay? So we're starting to, like, another thing that we might say, the serrated muscles come to about here, right? So the serrated muscles are coming to about 4 o'clock, right? And so they're right here. Now, where is 4 o'clock on the other side of this? Right? So here is 4 o'clock, and on the other side, 4 o'clock correlates with 10 o'clock. Here's 10 o'clock. So it's about there, right? So see how I've got the big serrated muscles like that? And then over on the other side, they're more like that, okay? These are my obliques. All right, so in the spirit of anatomical perspective, okay, that's the way that that's what we're about to approach. And as we learn anatomy, what I'm hoping you learn is you learn anatomical perspective. You can take this and apply it through any shape language you want. You can apply it through any proportion language that you want, right? Like if you want to draw like big bubbly cartoons, or if you want to draw like kind of marvelly comic guys, or if you want to draw anime, any of it, it's all using the same resources, okay? Okay, so one of the early learning the pelvis has taken me kind of a while, and I've found that some direction has been, in some sense, like misdirecting. Like some of the direction that I've got has taken me a long time to get over, and I'll talk you through some of that. One of the Proco teaches a method of building the pelvis, which he starts from a bucket like this, and he goes from the like 10 o'clock and the 4 o'clock. Here's like the 10 o'clock and the 4 o'clock, and he drops like this in, and like this, and like that. And so he starts out with this shape. And it's useful, and then in a certain way it's not useful. Okay. Here's the back. One of the reasons it's useful is because it really gives us a lot of perspective. One of the things that I struggled with on it was I struggled with understanding the muscular attachment, and it didn't explain to me some of the necessary. You're told when you start studying anatomy, you're told you got to learn the origins and insertions, and at the same time you're overwhelmed with anatomical language, like the posterior superior iliac spine is this point right there, right? But for our purposes, we could just say that front bone on the hip that you got to know, okay? And it comes up at 4 o'clock, and at 10 o'clock. It's always going to be in about that relationship, okay? Unless the pelvis is, tilted. Okay, now there's several directions of attachment that happen with the pelvis. So for one, you see this direction of attachment right here. Let's isolate that. Let's say here's a direction of attachment. Now here, that's another direction of attachment. Across the back, this is replicated. Through the bottom, right now, I'm going to use these directions of attachment, okay? This part of the pelvis here, okay. I want to say, here's my 6. Drop down to my 6, okay? That makes that a 12. You see where this point right here? Okay, let's say that comes up at 4 o'clock and 10 o'clock. Here's 4 o'clock, here's 10 o'clock. Drop down the form. Okay. When the figure turns around, there's a shape like this, and sometimes it carries up further like that, okay? This right here is this, okay? It's the top edge. Okay, now this comes up more at like 1 o'clock and 11 o'clock, okay? So if I drop down this, like let's say here's 12 o'clock, but there is 12. And if I go like there and there, okay? Now look at the direction across the form. Okay? That's the direction that the pelvis cuts across the form. So if you contrast that shape of the bucket, this bucket shape. So part of what the bucket wants to give you is the bucket wants to give you the reference to the outer shape of the figure, but what it's not doing is and then it doesn't leave you room for the muscles. So you conceptualize the muscles as these thin little bands, but really, like, I mean, think about the butt. The butt is a big old chunk. You know what I mean? The butt is a giant muscle. It just is. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, it's like close to the size of the puppy. You know, the gluteus maximus is on most of us is about the size of the puppy. You know, like it's that much matter. Okay. So this way of thinking about it, you're thinking of these thin little sheets, but it's just not that at all. Okay. Now here along this line, right here's my 6, here's the 6, there's a split. This thing is bilaterally split, okay? And it goes like this. It goes backwards and it's gonna head back, okay? This is gonna dip in a little ways. Like it doesn't, it's like, it's just gonna dip in a little ways. This is gonna come down and out, okay? And this is gonna come out and meet this. And here it's got these little like, superhero eyes. It goes like this. Okay. This top edge goes like this. This top edge goes, it's this S, like this. And by the way, one thing that I really want for you guys to recognize and to practice, to be involved with, is like, look at the level of the diagram that I'm drawing. Like it's a decent diagram. Okay, so like look at your diagrams, like your notes to yourself. That's your skill level with diagrams. Okay, diagrams they're not just a mnemonic. You know, diagrams are you as a draftsperson. Okay, so like if you're running through the diagrams and you're just like slamming them down and they look kind of sloppy or ugly, like this is a real place to practice drawing. Make your diagrams beautiful. Like if you look at the drawings of Frank Lloyd Wright, or you look at the drawings of architects or engineers, Da Vinci was like, the guy was an engineer and he was an architect, and his drawings had a soundness, you know? So locating, like look at, this is complicated, locating this S and that S in perspective. But if you can do that, you can draw a Corvette. Okay? Like you could draw the Batmobile. Like you have to be able to get curving lines in perspective with one another. All right. We've done this thing. We've gone from this axis, okay, to this axis. Okay. Now, on the figure, this axis right here, the major collection of butt muscles, the side butt muscles, okay, it works like this. Okay, the major collection of butt muscles is like this. You have this arch like this. You have the head of the trochanter right here, and I'll give you some details about the trochanter, but it lives right there. Okay. You have the gluteus maximus is like half of this. Okay. The gluteus medius is like that much of it. And then you have this muscle here called the tensor fascia lata, and it goes there. These muscles have something kind of, one of the things is that there's this Fibonacci or the golden section. There's this big thing in the study of anatomy. If you take this length and that length, it's a particular ratio. Okay. So and it comes up over and over again, and the Greeks got all interested in it, and they designed their columns, and you can take Greek architecture and find these proportions that are like, this is related to that and this is related to that in specific metrical ways. And it's pretty cool. Okay. You see this whole set of muscles, its major perspective is side plane. It's mostly this. Okay? It creates for us the ability to go this way in perspective. Okay? So I could say I've got this one muscle here. It's right here. Okay? It's smaller. It goes like this. And it connects in here. Okay, I've got this next muscle here. It's overlapped by that one. Now, if I do this and I make this line darker and I make this line lighter, you see how I've set that back in space a little bit? Okay, those guys overlap this. I'm going to make this line right here a little bit darker. Okay. Now I've got this overlap in space, right? So I've drawn the side plane of my pelvis. And let's keep in mind, it's based on this orientation, right? Now, just to keep this point going, you see this orientation? You see this orientation? What happens is these muscles, this collection of muscles right here, these are called adductor muscles. This collection of muscles connects to this. So do this with your hands. Take your hands and go like this. Like that's kind of the pelvis. Do this thing with your fingers. Splay them out like you're holding like a goblet or a basketball. Like you're really going to send a basketball. And you see the way my thumbs are turned inward right now? That's the connection point for the muscles that become your inner thighs. And it's that change of direction. It's a huge change of direction. Okay? So we've changed the direction and we're like, these muscles in here, they go this way. Now, that's this. It goes this way. So if you're looking for like, how am I going to do my cross-hatching on the inner thighs? Like that's a clue. Okay, that's nice that the strands of the muscles are flattened, right? The muscles of the front of the leg, the quadricep muscles, they connect up, they connect to here, and they connect to here, and they go this way. So that's getting kind of cool, isn't it? Like, check this out over here. I've got this guy, which comes out of here like that. I've got this other guy, which goes around here like that. And I've got this other guy, which comes over there. I've got this interweaving in there. Now, what I want for you to pick up on is I want for you to pick up on how it is that the bone is determining the morphology. Morphology means surface form. Okay? I want for you to be thinking about when you're looking at something, you're trying to figure it out, you're trying to draw it, you're trying to invent it. If you think about the core, the bones at the core of it, it will organize your thinking. This drawing right here, I know my pelvis, the pelvis is going like this. I'm looking for how can I use, here's the connection for the gluteus maximus. The gluteus maximus connects along this whole edge of the sacrum, okay? Creating this arch, it connects along here, and it has a very interesting, there's a very interesting thing that goes on with the leg. I have to explain it. When you have the pelvis kind of like this, okay, there's a connection right here. There's a connection right here. It's a ball and socket joint. Okay, so the ball and socket joint goes this way, and it ends here. This comes down. Now, look at the beauty of this setup. I love this, like, you see this shape as opposed to this shape. Look at the like internal shape here. If I think about this, like, it's also got these. We're going to cover that more in depth, okay? But for right now, okay, so right here, those guys are this. That's the widest part of the body in the hips. That's the widest part of out of the shoulders. That's the widest part of the hips, the lower body. And that is, it's a huge design resource. Like those are right here, okay? They're right here. That's this, okay? Now, the gluteus maximus attaches, it attaches all along here, but then it has this other crazy thing that it does, which is that on the side of the leg, on the, like out here, okay, like right out here, there's this other muscle, and it's a tendon, I'm sorry. And it's like weird. It's like on the outside and it goes all the way down and it connects to the back of the knee. Okay, like this, and it connects to the back of the knee. And the gluteus maximus connects to it. So this gluteus maximus is connecting all through in here, all the way to out here. Okay? And so it gives you this, like, it's a very strange mechanism here. It's this, I mean, there's a couple of other ones. There's one right here above the knee. And there's one where the triceps end, like the triceps are right here. And then if actually here, where the triceps end, like this, there's this huge sheath of cartilage. Really, it's tendinous cartilage. And it comes down to the elbow like this. It's the same kind of stuff right here. And the butt muscle connects into it. And this muscle connects into that side of it. And it forms this, like, it's got this knife-like shape. It's got this crazy shape right there. And it's on the outside. It's like right here. And it turns into a big tendon and it creeps like on the side plane of the knee over there. So when we're drawing this thing from the back, the gluteus maximus is connected all through here, it's connected all here, and it reaches over. I'm using S. S is just like, I don't know, I believe it. And then this comes over, and what it's doing is it's making its way over to here. However, this here, this whole underside and this part and this part, this part, and this part and this part is all coated in fat, okay? And what that does is it smooths everything, all right? So everything that we're, like all of these muscles, will, if we draw them with articulation, it's like that's not really how they look, because there's all of this, even in people that are in really, really great shape. I mean, our bodies are storing energy for when it gets cold out, or for when we have to do work, or for, and so all of this is softened intensely through here, okay? But the muscle is, in general, is making its way over to that point. And the front tensor fascia lata is going to there. It actually goes like that, sorry. So here's the side plane. And notice the way I hook when I'm drawing. Notice the way, like, anytime you can do that, like, I'm really trying to, if I can get away with it, I'm going to. Tensor, gluteus medius, connecting to the top of that. Okay. So this view one of the things that happens when people start to draw like this, I'll change this into a back view. Once you get to this stage of a drawing, the next thing for you to ask yourself is, how do I start to get perspective on this drawing? Like, how do I start to take this? I've collected, like, I've given myself the dots which tell me where the form is. Okay, now the next question is, how do I get this to start to have some perspective? What people generally do right now is they generally say, I need some details. I've got my proportions set up. I've got my gesture set up. I need some details. They either jump into that or perhaps some kind of shading, right? Now, shading will be good. Shading could be good because shading can give you volume, right? And volume can give you perspective. Like you can say, the light is coming from this way. And if the light's coming from that way, this whole inner part of the thigh will be shaded. And then on this side, this whole side of the quads will be shaded, right? And the belly, this will be shaded over here, right? That's giving me perspective. That's giving me volume, okay? That's also coming from anatomy. So what we're looking for here is like what are the connections? How do I get myself from a flat drawing to a drawing that starts to have perspective? And a drawing at this angle is really challenging. I mean, we go to it all the time because it's not that challenging to get it laid out. But once you get it laid out, it becomes really challenging. And so what you'll end up doing is a lot of the times you really press the like above or below eye level, right? Like if I take this and I go, it's super below eye level, that allows me to do that. And now I'm starting to get some volume on it, right? Like I've started to get perspective and I've started to get volume. Those are really important. That's really important, okay? That's like what I want you guys to be learning today. That's what I want to be teaching you. Here, I'm going to use the medius, and then I'm going to overlap it with the maximus. I'm going to come here and be like, okay, that's the maximus. I'm going to overlap the medius with the maximus. And I have a bad line I did. This overlap, that small overlap, is very telling. Okay. Another important part for us is the oblique muscles, and they attach along this edge right here. They attach all along the top edge. And you see this, I want to say one more thing here. You see how this shape, if we take this shape and turn it up and look into it, we're looking at this. Something like that. And the body that is around it is shaped like this. It's thinner. So this is sort of the pelvis. The front edge of it is a lot wider than the back edge of it. And so the muscle that's right here, look at how big that muscle is, the gluteus medius. It's like really big. This muscle here it's thinning as it moves forward, and then this muscle here is a thinner of the thinnest and smallest of the three. So you can see, you know, when you do this thing and you take, when you're thinking of the pelvis like this, you take these and you draw them way, way in. That right in there is the sacrum. These spread way out. Now the muscles that coat the outside of it on the back side are really thick, and on the front side they really start to thin. Okay? Along this edge, as I was saying, so that's the bottom side of this. The top side of this, you have this other cool thing, which is, so we know that we have adductor muscles here connecting to the bottom, connecting to this, okay? Now, the top of this, you remember I was saying we've got this direction and we've got this direction? Now, the top of this is the abdomen. Like the belly muscles connect to the top of this, like this. Oops. So that's nice too. Like, look at this line here in terms of making perspective on this figure. Say I take this, and you see how this angle, you see that angle? And I follow it with that angle. Okay, now the angle across the abdomen here, it's that angle. And the angle across the ribs is that angle. Now this goes like this, over the rib, okay? Big chunk of abdomen. Another big chunk of abdomen. This is 2. Center line, center line, center line. So you see how the cross contours are giving me volume? Now here's the edge of the abdomen. I want to give it volume. And it's a line going, it's perspective going that way. I'll take this guy right here and look at, I'm going to use the abdomen to help build volume, right? I'm going to use the abdomen to be like, okay, so think of the bone going across right here, right? That's a fully soft shape, but my bone crosses in that direction. The belly button is going to be about here. Now, this is not a figure where you're going to see like abdominal, you're not going to see a six-pack on this guy. Okay? However, this muscle here underneath there, it has this crease that needs to be in that perspective. Okay. But if I'm going to be looking down on this figure, it looks like I'm looking down on him. I can take this and I can go like this. And here's the center line. I can go like that. Perspective goes this way. It went that way. It goes this way. The rib cage I might be seeing here. Because the direction of the light, this part of the rib cage would probably be in shadow. This part of the belly would likely be in shadow. Shadow shapes are a great place to sneak in design. Occlusion. Another thing that's really fun with shadows, see how I darkened that, put occlusion there and leave the reflection, right? That makes it look like illuminated. Really common, that's a very common technique. So like this edge of the shadow will be darkened right there. Right here, I'll do occlusion. Okay, and you see how that looks like reflected light flying up into that underplane. This move here, like when you look at it, when I look at it up there, like this move here looks like a higher level of drawing than that, right? Like it takes my drawing to a whole other place. It's not hard. We're using the stuff that we've done in class, right? Like we're understanding the perspective of the anatomy of the abdomen based on the pelvis. And we've used a terminator and a reflected light and a couple of cross contours, along with the like basic shape design of the character. There's a cool thing. So you guys can locate those things with me. That's all perfectly comfortable and cool. So is everybody good to there? Okay, so if you go from here, if you start right there, the obliques essentially are oblique. Okay, they go like this. And then from there, they start to turn upwards. And from over here, they start to do this. So the oblique will go like this. And connect all along this top edge. And then here, coming from literally the underside of the scapula, are the serrated muscles, and they go like this. And the obliques will interdigitate. I have to do a little work on my understanding of the scapula, of the serrated and the oblique and their inner joining. I'm not that great at it. It's right here. Okay. Back view. From here and here on the serrated, here's the spine. Let the spine be really nice and thick, okay? And right down here, there's these like long muscles. They're the erector spinae muscles. And the lat comes down like this. And it connects over. And the lat can be thought of as a kind of like teacup, as a kind of like wine glass. It's kind of like this. And these guys go up underneath the arms. Like over here, it goes up underneath the arms. And in this space here, you get the obliques. And they'll be straightening up as they get around to the back. So you see how the leg here, the quads, you see how they go in like this? So what's going on is one of the muscles connects here, like one of them connects up there, and another one goes in and it connects here. So, and then these guys, we know where they connect. You might see the lat out here, and the lat would go like this. Notice how the belly here is turned direction. There, here it would be turning direction. This stuff would probably start to move into shadow. Same here. Well, I think that's kind of it, guys. That was a long lesson.